Welcome into the film room. Kenny Scherlinger, Jay Paterno, Penn State, Michigan State, the land-grant trophy. Jay, let's get into it. Michigan State's offense, they have the wide receivers, but the question it always is if their quarterbacks can get them the football down the field.
Well, Michigan State has a tradition of great wide receiver play, as we've talked about on the show, and it goes back to George Perles. And I want to make one note about George Perles because he passed this year. George Perles, when Penn State first got in the Big Ten, a lot of teams didn't want us in there. George Perles called Joe Paterno immediately and said, let's end the season each year against each other. Let's create a rivalry that can really end our season every year. And to his credit, that's been the case. And there's been some great games. So let's talk about those wide receivers that we mentioned. When you talk about Michigan State, they've got excellent speed. This is against Northwestern, one of the best defenses in our conference. And even though this corner is 12 yards off, Michigan State's receiver is going to get behind him, and that puts a lot of pressure on your safeties. And once those safeties start to come back, now all of a sudden the run game starts to open up. But take a look at how fast, when we look at the video, look how fast that this receiver from Michigan State eats up that cushion of Northwestern defender, and not only eats up the cushion, gets past him, gets behind him by a couple yards, and the ball's there. So if the ball's there, that's going to be a problem for Penn State, and it'll be a real test for the secondary. The next thing that we'll talk about is the running game. Now, the running game has not been what Michigan State is used to. They don't have that one great running back. They've got a couple of guys. Hayward is another guy. It's a power runner. But they've tried to get the running game going. And because the receivers can put pressure on the safeties, they've got to play back. And once you get them back, now they can get the numbers in their advantage and run the football. And you'll see here against Northwestern, again, a really good defensive football team. Take a look at the video, how they get some movement up front, they get double teams, and they have even numbers, and they're able to get the ball and get themselves 14, 15-yard gains. You're not going to see the 70-yard runs, those kind of things, but you'll see those. Now, to get creative in the run game, they involve their quarterbacks in the run game. Now, Lombardi and Thorne are both going to be, whoever plays, they're going to have to get involved in the run game. When you look at the guy in the triangle down there, the quarterback is going to read him. If he closes, he's going to keep the ball and run it. If the defensive end goes up the field to take the quarterback, they'll hand it off, and that gives them numbers to work with if you have an offensive line that's not doing a great job. So take a look at this one here on the video. He reads that end. The end closes. He keeps it, gets himself 7, 8 yards, 9 yards, moves the chains. Those are the kind of things Michigan State may have to do to get what they want to get done against Penn State offensively. Now, once you start to play the run game, if they have some success, now your safeties start coming down. You get some play-action pass, and they're very, very good with play-action pass scheme-wise, but they have not been as consistent getting the ball to the receivers in stride. Here you're going to motion a receiver across. They're going to fake the run over to the left, get the safety to fill, and get the receiver in red behind them. And we talk about not getting it to them in places where they can make plays. Here's an example. Take a look at the video here. Motion across, get Northwestern to make the adjustment. They make the fake. The safety is down. They've got him there. If the quarterback puts that ball to him in stride, that's a touchdown for Michigan State, but again, turns into a 20-yard gain rather than that.
And taking a look at the defensive side of the ball for Michigan State, I think this is where Penn State can really do some damage this weekend against the Spartan defense, because if Michigan State can't get their offense going, Penn State can score points, and that could be the key to the game.
No question about it, Kenny. And when you look at Michigan State's defense this year as opposed to the defenses of the past that Penn State has played, they're not quite as deep across the board. They don't have the set of great linebackers that they've had. They've got Simmons in the middle, who's as good as any linebacker Penn State will play this year. And across the board in the secondary, they're not as deep. And this is a defense that's set up to get their linebackers and secondary involved because they're going to be wide ends, be aggressive. They're good up front. They have a good up front group of guys that are going to give you some problems. So take a look here in the short yardage. You're going to see that Simmons is the guy in the middle. They're going to force everything back into him, and not only does he get into the backfield, but he makes a tackle. Take a look at this 4th and 1 against Northwestern. They force everything back inside. He gets in the backfield, makes the play. They turn the ball over on downs. Big play in that game. Now, Mel Tucker, since he's been at Ohio State as a secondary coach his entire career, he's been everything has come off of a 2-safety high. Now, to kind of get some things and force some things to happen, they start to blitz off the edge. They rotate the secondary, get into 3 deep with 3 underneath, and Penn State's got to take advantage of that. Take a look at how they do that against Northwestern on the video. Right before the snap, they come down. They confuse Northwestern's quarterback. He doesn't get the ball out on time like he'd like to. The other thing that you'll see is they're going to move their front guys. They're going to tie in their safety with the up front, gap integrity, force cutbacks to their safeties, and their safeties are fairly effective making tackles. Take a look at this one against Northwestern. Again, you'll see up front, they force the Northwestern tailback to cut back and be moving laterally rather than north and south, and there's the safety to make the play. The last element I want to talk about is you cannot be late on throws because they're good in the secondary at coming up with some turnovers, and they do get some pressure with their down guys. So take a look at this play here. Northwestern going to drop back. Michigan State uses a three-man rush and is able to get them out of the pocket and keep them from converting on a third down.
Jay, as always, thank you for breaking it down for us. We wrap up the Blue White Tailgate when we come back.